Okay.
All righty. Well, for everyone who's jumping in here this afternoon or this morning or whatever time zone you're in, we just wanted to welcome you and thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live for a little conversation, just about dialoguing about the importance of fatherhood and family, and navigating all of this in a broken world. At Legacy Makers, we really believe that family is the foundation of society. And so it's cool when we can have people like Justin come in and chime in and share a little bit of his insight on, what does it mean to really leave a legacy, and, especially in the sense of fatherhood and family. Um, and so we are just so thankful for him and for him being willing to do this with us. For those of you who don't know Justin Sogoian, he works with Compassion International, which is a worldwide organization that helps, well, just, from their slogan, which is just to release children from poverty. And super awesome organization. We have a couple of sponsor kids with them. So anyway, today I'm super excited to talk with him. Hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section of the video. But otherwise, Justin, I'd love it if you could just share a little bit about, who are you, some of your background. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks, Ben, for having me on.
Totally.
This is quite an honor to be on this with you. And the topic that you asked me to share about is about being a great dad and things like that, which I don't usually think I'm a great dad. And, we're always our worst critics.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be here and share any thoughts and things like that from my personal experience, and then my work experience too, being a pastor for 16 years and then working at Compassion. So happy
Yeah.
to be here. Man.
What do you do for Compassion?
So I am I guess you would call me the National Director of Church Relations. So my job is for Compassion. It's really on the marketing side, and my job is to lead a team of people. Right now, it's about 30 of them across the United States, and their jobs are to connect with pastors, find out what churches are trying to do and accomplish, and then how Compassion can come alongside and help them accomplish their goals. And
Nice.
in Compassion
That's cool.
International, like you said, is all about releasing children from poverty in Jesus' name. We work in 25 different countries and in third world countries, and my team is responsible for helping thousands of kids find sponsors through our one-to-one sponsorship program. Legit sponsorship, not like some kid on a card somewhere, but real live children that are
Yeah.
definitely in need, and we put one sponsor in touch with one child and make it happen, which is our model. So it's pretty
Yeah.
exciting to be part of.
Yeah. Well, a testament to that. So the boy that I sponsor, his name's David. He's from Kenya, and he just turned 18 this year, and so I've been sponsoring him since he was like 7 or 8, and so it's just been quite the journey, and so cool to hear receive actual letters from him, and dialogue back and forth and send letters back and forth and pictures, and there's so many cool opportunities to bless him, and it's been really cool to see what Compassion has done for him and his
It's
family.
a real child, and I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some of these organizations you don't know. And I've been to Kenya 7 times, and I've seen one of my 5 sponsored kids over there, and they're real people, and I get to hang out with them and have pictures with them and stuff. So it's working.
So awesome. Well, what about your family? Tell us a little about your family. You have 3 daughters and obviously a wife.
I do. I do. I have the most amazing wife in the world. Caitlin and I have been married for almost 10 years. We have a great story of how we met, both working at Compassion International, and I was going through onboarding training and stuff out in Colorado Springs, and they told me, hey, you're company credit card isn't ready yet. So go find Caitlin, who works with you, and tell her you need to borrow her card to go take yourself out to eat.
Yeah.
So I went over, and I had known about her, and I was like so interested in her already. And I went over and sat on her desk and waited for her to get off a call. And I said, hey, so they told me I had to come over to you, and because I don't have a credit card, like, you have to go take me out to eat. So, and she smiled and she said, no, that's not what you were told. You were told to come get my credit card so you could take yourself out to eat. Besides, I'm already having some time with a friend later, tonight. And then we talked for a few more minutes, and then she said, but maybe I'd be open to a late dinner. And so that was kind of our first date, was that. Yeah. And the rest is history. We got married a year later. So she's fabulous, phenomenal, everything I could ever ask for in an amazing wife who's encouraging and loving, and amazing mom to our 3 kids. We have 3 kids. So Jocelyn was our firstborn. She's now 8 years old.
Well, you have 2 girls and a boy. My bad.
2 girls and a boy, yeah. And then Adeline is 6 years old.
Yeah.
And then we have Eliason, who we call Eli. Yeah. And he is just turned 18 months old. And he is really fun because he's kind of the mascot of the team, where you got these older kids and me and my wife, and then you got this little 18-month-old. So everything kind of revolves around this little guy, and we have the best. So it's really cool.
What do you guys like to do together as a family or as an individual? What's some of your activities?
We like a lot of things. Caitlin's family is in Colorado. We like to go to Colorado 3-4 times a year, and ride horses there. And with her dad's got some horses and some fun things. We like to be in the ocean, be at the beach, here in Southern Cal, and we love doing that. My wife's a big outdoors person, so hikes and parks and things like that we really like. I'm teaching the girls how to surf on Fridays. Nice. Down the Newport Pier area. So that's really fun. And they just love it. They're doing a great job. And just this last week, Eli grabbed the board, one of the boogie boards, and pulled it into the ocean, and we're like ready to go. So
wow,
we're excited about that too. So
I'm impressed, man.
Anything outdoors, we had game night on Monday nights, so we play some games once we put Eli down, and we play Block Us, or anybody Block Us fans out there. But it's fun.
Something that I just, want to commend you guys for, something I've always admired with you guys, is just your welcoming spirit in your hospitality of like always inviting friends and family and guests over, and always putting on these great events and stuff. And so, just creating such a great community. It's been really cool.
Well, thanks.
Be a part of that.
Part of our values is we want to be the house that all the kids come to and all the families come to,
Yeah.
And we want to see our kids' friends and help foster that. And we bought a house that would definitely do that. That backs up to a school, and everybody has to walk past our house to go to school, and it's kind of the place to be. So
I love it. Wow, great work, man. So awesome. Well, okay, so I do want to dive into the discussion here, though. And so the first thought is, it's kind of a bomb, but like, what do you think it means to be a dad? And I know it's probably kind of a loaded question, or maybe too big to really sum up in, one moment, but just, what are some like initial thoughts from you and, your experience so far? And what do you think it means?
Well, I'm still a young dad, right? In terms of number of years. So 8 years now is my oldest. Man, I just think it's such an important role that dads play in the lives of their kids. Even, and the best way to just know it is to just think about your own time growing up, and did you have a dad? Did you not have a dad? Where was your dad? How did your dad treat you?
Mm,
How did it make you feel? How does it even make you feel right now to think about your dad? Is it good feelings? Is it bad feelings? Is it
mm,
feelings of fear? Is
yeah.
it feelings of encouragement? Did your dad get mad at you every time you tried to do something right? Did your dad come alongside of you when you got hurt or when
Mm,
you did something wrong? And you
mm,
just think about all those feelings and thoughts, and you go, wow, this person, if they were in your life, the proximity to you was so close, and
yep.
they held such a prominent figure in your life. Just it's next to the mom, dad's the most important shaper or
Mm,
influencer. And so I kind of think of it as my role is like a surfboard shaper, is just
mm,
like someone that takes this blank slate of foam and just starts shaving off sides
mm,
of it to kind of create some very smooth areas, and then some areas that turn and some areas that are flat, and the work of that is something that takes time, and it's something that is intentional. Is very
mm,
intentional to do something like that. So I think if that's my role as a dad, is like, all right,
mm,
what am I creating in these kids? What type of experiences are they having? Who are they becoming? Where am I doing good? Where am I not doing good? um, what is the end product that's going to happen, and really
mm,
thinking ahead to is eh, boy, I've been really angry lately. Do I really want them to um, you know think about cleaning up their room as something as a punishment, or something that is good for them to think about,
mm, yeah.
having a tidy area so that they can be more productive, and when they become adults, they'll, you know, use space wisely because of the way that I help them think through their room, and keeping it clean, or the way that it's set up or something like that. So kind of really been doing a lot of thinking about what is it, 10 years from now, Joss is going to be 18. And what is it that
Mm,
I want to see? Who is the person she's going to become? And how do I help kind of shape and guide that, knowing that she makes her own decisions, but at the same time I have a responsibility to guide and treat her a certain way. So I just think it's such an important role as a dad. And I think of my own faith in Jesus, and my heavenly Father who is God,
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and that relationship as well is so deep, and um, so shaping. So
Yeah. I think that, like, when I think of just being a dad and what that means, it is really, I mean, at least in my personal life, it's really interesting how, all throughout your life, you can see how that relationship that you've had with your dad, or just the ideology of your own father, or what it means to be a dad, it just kind of carries with you, and it really does carry a lot of weight in your life,
mhm.
you know. Um, and I really did, I like what you said about how you take time to think about, what experience do you want your kids to have? What thoughts do you want your kids to have around you as their father, as they're growing up, and taking time outs. And that is something that, I think personally, I mean, I try to do that as well. But I think just overall, it's something that when it comes down to being a dad, it's something that we can't afford not to do, is to take time to really evaluate, like, what do we want? What do we want our kids to grow up thinking about us? How do we want them to think about us? And because they're going to have that image and that, thought for the rest of their lives. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
I just remembered something that our president, Jimmy Miato, said at Compassion. And I'm loosely paraphrasing him, but he said something to the effect of, teachers go, so deep with children. but they go wide because they touch a lot of children because they have 30, 60, 90 kids that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if they're a junior high teacher or an elementary teacher or whatever.
Hmm.
Soccer coaches go, you get them for a certain amount of time and they go,
Hmm.
this deep, but they have wide. And all these people throughout childhood that you knew really don't go really deep because they are touching, in terms of numbers of kids, they're influencing kids,
Mm-hmm.
teachers, coaches, things like that. But it's really only parents that, I mean, you can't have 1,000 kids. You can't have 30 kids. I guess you could. That's kind of crazy. I don't, but you're going to have one, two, three, maybe most people kids, that
Yeah.
many, maybe four, like you man, five or whatever. But our role, what happens is like there's no broad, yeah, I'll coach other kids and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
the one that I'm called to go deep with are
Mm.
those three,
Wow.
you know, and that's where no one else gets to do that. Their mom gets to do that. I get to do that, and that's it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the depth of who they are, how they
Mm-hmm.
think, what's going on, their discipleship,
Yeah.
and the person that, like, no one else is thinking about that for them.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to me and their mom,
Yeah.
and we got to do a good job of that because no one else is thinking on that level of
Totally.
who are they becoming. They're all thinking, well, I want them to be a good math student. I want them to be able to kick a soccer ball. I want them to do, I want all that for them. But character and depth and
Mm-hmm.
development really is in the role of the parent, and we've got to
Totally.
do a good job.
Yeah. So I mean, even with that illustration, you can see the impact that you're going to have as a dad, regardless of how well you do. You're going to have that impact,
Yeah,
and it's so critical. Um, and it's just like, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about my own personal experience, and like and I think we all do this. We just carry that image of our father. Maybe
yeah,
because I'm a man, maybe because I value so much being a man. I value so much what my father thinks about me or how he interacts or whatever. Um, I value that. Maybe it's just the maybe it's the way God created it to be. Uh, but same is true for I think all of us, even girls. You know, you set the tone and you set the pace and you set the trajectory of your relationship with your family and your kids, and you've got a set amount of time to make sure it's what you would hope it to be, or you have a set amount of time to make sure that what they're going to say about your relationship is what you would hope they would say,
yeah,
which is 18 years or so. Thankfully it's 18 years, but it's only 18 years.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's good stuff. I
Yeah.
think there's probably a lot more to talk about when it comes to what does it mean to be a dad, and especially with different perspectives and different upbringings and different cultures.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, would you say that there's anything else that would be, like mission critical in a sense of like, when we're thinking about fatherhood and other dads out there, what, from what and just from your experience with and knowledge with the Bible and, faith and, people that you've met, I mean, what else? I mean, is there anything else that you feel like is just mission critical that would be helpful to know?
Well, I think we've talked about aspects of being a shepherd, right? Is someone that, like a shepherd is with sheep, where he's just kind of guiding them along. He doesn't put the grass in their mouth you
Hmm.
know, or hit them hard or whatever. He's just constantly kind of like,
Yeah.
guiding them to where they need to go and where the food is and how to get the food and then,
Yeah.
where to sleep. And then kind of that another role of that shepherd is protector,
Mm.
where, in biblical times where the shepherd would, they didn't have a gate or whatever, but the shepherd would lay down in the entrance to the pen, and that
Yep.
would be, the shepherd would lay down, and their literal body would be the gate, and the
Hmm.
protection would come from the shepherd,
Oh wow.
physically being the
Yeah.
gate. Nothing could go past the shepherd.
Wow.
And honestly, in this day and age, that's a big one, because there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things being thrown at our kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
in the developing world, things being thrown at kids are, you know, more open to, you know, poverty type of issues, such as malnutrition or
Mm-hmm.
lack of education, or
Mm-hmm.
um, even abuse,
Yeah.
you know, and things like that. And so those kids are at risk, but our kids are just as at risk, just not of the same things. Our kids are at risk of affluence,
Mm-hmm.
having the latest iPad, getting a cell phone too early, or getting on social media,
Yeah.
um, getting what they want all the time,
Mm-hmm.
never having to suffer or wait, or never, you know, having to deal with consequences for their actions. Like those things are are just as risky to the development of a child in some ways as kids who are in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember that our role as parent just never ends, and
Yeah.
doesn't matter what context you're in. You're always the shepherd, discipler, you know, dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the dad is that maybe unique is protector as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Absolutely.
strong, you know, masculinity, of that strength, and
Yeah.
um, kind of that role of being a protector is something that I think God
Mm-hmm.
calls us to, and
Absolutely.
protect my kids from not just bullies or physical harm, but what's on the internet, or
Yeah.
you know, or situations where, you know, making sure babysitters are up to par, and not just handing my kids off because I'm so tired, you know, because I need to go on a date night with my wife, but really thinking through that protection piece. And I'm adamant about that. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of things we could talk about, but I think those are some of the
Yeah.
rules. Yeah, but I think that shepherd part, you know, there's a lot of aspects to that that
Totally.
are.
Well, that's good because I think then it really does give your kids, you know, whether you have girls or boys, it gives your kids the example, kind of sets the tone for them to what to look for or how to emulate or what to emulate.
Mhm.
That's super good, man. Well, so as we were talking about this, in light of everything that's going on in the world right now, with especially in America with the pandemic and the election and all that stuff, and just everything kind of up in the air with so much. How do you feel like that has affected the way you parent or father, or shifted your approach to fathering, um, or has it?
Yeah. I think one I think one thing is that things kind of got more intense, right? When your
Mm-hmm.
kids were, if your kids were grade school or whatever, and then they're home all the time.
Yeah.
And so it got a little more intense because their presence,
Yeah.
right? And so this whole idea of, you know, hey, I had this amount of time with them, now I have this amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what was hard for me, I'll just speak for my own personal, was the struggle became more to keep myself healthy and focused when the people that are dependent upon me are now more needy and more, you know, needing of my attention or my.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was that was a big that bit was and still is, I'm sure, for everybody who's listening, a challenge, because I only have so many hours, and I want to get some time alone to myself and with God in the morning. I want to get exercise on a regular basis. I want to fix things that break around the house constantly. I'm the plumber, the IT guy, the electrician. You know, I'm all I'm all
Yeah.
those things, right? Every broken toy ends up on my desk. Dad, can you fix this? And sometimes they disappear in the trash can. Don't tell my kids, but most of the time
Yeah.
I do get it done. But there's just so many things. Even right now, like I have in my calendar tonight, unclog the girls' drain upstairs. You know, like, and
Nice.
then if you don't, it's going. You know, and you clean the bathtub, it's just going to be dirty in like 2 days because all that
Yeah.
water gets. So there's lots of practical pressure on a dad. And I think it goes back to, we got to take care of ourselves first, because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not healthy, I'm not going to respond healthy. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be healthy. I'm not going to, all those
Mm.
things. So it sounds selfish, but like in order for me to be the dad, the husband, the leader, the person I need to be, I gotta make sure I'm on track with God. I gotta make sure I'm on track with
Yeah.
my values and I'm not losing them. I gotta make sure I'm on track with some sort of sleep, as in this phase, he's sleeping good now. But for those of you with kids a year old or less, or 2 years old or less,
Oh
like
yeah.
you need to like give yourself grace. You need to like get rest. And
Well,
and,
that's
and
good. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, I mean, it, everybody's just like, well, I should be like this person or I
Mm.
should be like that person. It's like, no, you have these developing humans that are are need a lot of attention, and when they're you're going to be up at night, and
Yeah.
that you can't do all the things that a person who's an empty nester does.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. So stop
Mm-hmm.
comparing yourself to that and be the dad you need to be now,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, holding that baby, or, you know, doing what you need to do, because it's a different phase. So you got to have a healthy, not only healthy habits and healthy, relationship with God, you got to have healthy rhythms and healthy, which create healthy thought patterns of,
Mm-hmm.
all right, this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
It's okay to be here, and
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Well, it's funny you say it, about the whole, kids under one or so, because, we have Jeremiah, who's we're fostering right now.
yeah.
And he's lactose intolerant. But then the other day, someone accidentally fed him chocolate milk straight up.
Well,
So, he kind of breaks out and like, anyway, it was a horrible night. I mean,
it's sad.
it was like one of the worst nights that we've had. And I was like, I mean, just to your point about giving, having grace for yourself, and, me thinking that we're going down this road and what we're doing, and like, okay, I got a lot of things to do. I can't afford to lose sleep right now. And then here's Jeremiah waking up at 1:30 in the morning, and then like, he's ready to go. Like he's ready to party for the day. And then he's going to have a nap in 3 hours. And that's what happened. Woke up and I'm coming downstairs with him, and we don't have a big house. Coming downstairs and trying to just help him to be quiet, but man, dude, it's tough. But if you're in that situation, man, that's
And
tough.
that's where we lose, back to the other question of what does it mean to be a dad?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we lose, because we go, no, my job as the dad is to bring home money. And in order to bring home money, I need sleep, and I need to do,
Mm.
this has to be like this. And
Yeah.
that's where I get trapped,
Yeah.
because I go, no, 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 no.
Mm.
Part of being a dad, being a father, is that's just one aspect. Like you don't get to disciple between the hours of 8 and 5. You don't get to be a dad. You're 24 hours on the clock. That's the thing. And
That's so true.
so, you know, helping a kid at 3 in the morning that comes down and says, I have a growing pain, or, I had a nightmare or something. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, go back to bed. I don't want to talk to you, because, I got things to do and I need my sleep right now. And granted, that's mostly my response.
Yeah, I
But
know. I know.
at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, this is part of my role as a
Mm.
dad. Like, this is I can't look at children as a hampering to who I want to become or what I want to accomplish. They're part of that. They're part of that. Children are a part of who we want to become. And children,
Mm-hmm.
there's no greater discipler in my life than 3 kids right
Yeah.
now that are under the age of 8, or 8 or
Well,
under.
I mean, that's so true. And, even to just back to what I said in the beginning about how family is, it's so critical, and it's so easy, even for myself to find myself in this place of like, I got to get there. I got to have this much, and I got to do this. And, we got to do, and it becomes about what I'm trying to do for my family, instead of like, remembering that, like you said, like family is 24 hours a day, all year for the rest of your life. Man, it's that way, I think, because it's like, it is the foundation. It is the building block of who we are as people and civilization. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that for me. And and I think if we take a moment to accept that and remember that like they're included in all of who we are and even what we're doing. And because the thing is like, they're gonna live longer than us, and then they're gonna pass and share what they learned on to their kids, and it just keeps going. Um, that's so good, though. Another funny story I was thinking of when you were talking was when all of this started, the whole pandemic. It was like week 2 or 3. I don't know if you remember. It was like we had a rainy week for like one whole week towards the beginning of the year. Anyway, it was like the hardest moment of my life. Count, again, we're in a small place, and so then you add the pandemic to a small house with rain, and because we're outside people, we're like can't stay inside, and I'm like, I literally felt like this caged animal. Like I was standing out the window, like with tears welling up in my face, like how can I get out of here? I gotta get out of here. And you're right. It comes down to like finding the space to consider, like, what I mean, even though it may sound selfish, it's like it's finding the space to think about like how can I um, truly make this special, even though it's so challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And how do thinking about how can I carve out the time to even think about that in the midst of having 4 kids and you know our whole family and our whole house, and I'm not going to work, I'm working at home now, when there's no space to even have the time for yourself to try and get to any sort of healthy place. But I mean, do you have anything to say around that whole idea of like, what do you do when you're in that situation? Because I probably definitely missed the mark on it. So maybe you could help me out.
I mean, part of it's like just giving yourself grace to have those thoughts and feelings of like, get me out of here. Like, this is rough. This is brutal. This is hard. Kids screaming, can't get them to the right places. They're fighting, you just have those times. And
Mm,
nobody teaches you this. Nobody teaches you how to have kids or how crazy they are sometimes, And
yeah.
I think the one thing is remember what it was like to be that age. Like, I mean, yours are kind of still small, mine are still sort of small, but I remember what it was like to be an 8-year-old or 6-year-old. Like, I was an idiot, like I was the biggest idiot out there. I mean, I was doing stuff like I mean, everything was a blur, it was like
Yeah.
my thoughts were not, how can I obey my parents today? I mean, that was never like one
No.
of my thoughts. It was, what can I get away with? I want
Oh,
to do my own thing. What would make me happy? What time does Transformers come on?
yeah.
Something like that. I mean, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So why do I expect these 6 and 8-year-olds to act like adults? They're kids.
Mm,
That's how they think.
mm,
They're,
mm.
want they see a commercial, they want it, and it's Disney Junior knows what they're doing. They're, they're soliciting the kids and all that stuff. So
Seriously.
anyway,
That's
it's
good.
really helpful to empathize with kids and try and
Mm,
find a couple at every age. What did I do during that time? What
mm,
made me happy? What made me sad?
mm,
I remember it as a kid. I loved it when we would just go out to dinner. Like, there was a, very rarely, but with our neighbors, we would go to a place called Senior Rubens, which
mm.
was a Mexican food joint, sit down place. We just would pound chips and salsa for, you know, forever. And it was just like this sense of freedom. There was a kid's table and a parent's table.
Yeah.
But stop and think about that. Like,
That's good,
do
man.
I create that kids table feel
Mm,
when we go out to dinner? Or am I like, no, our kids need to sit down and, hang out here, and the idea of kids sitting down during a meal seems so great to me as a parent, but it's so not what a kid wants to do during a meal. Like they want to stand or sit on the table or put their head on the floor, or,
Mm.
they want to, and for me to get upset at that is just crazy, because I do. And they're kids. They want to do, why would I want to pound them in being an adult at 6 and 8?
Mm.
Because it accomplishes what I want them to do. It's all about me. And so I
Yeah.
got to get out of that and go, does this really matter? Does it really
Mm.
matter if they're standing or sitting? Oh, I have to treat them manners. All right,
Mm.
well, I'll treat them manners when we go certain places, but it's
That's
just,
good, man.
so.
I mean, what do you do though? Like, how do you even get to that? Because I guess I often just, it's hard for me to even like stop and pause and think critically, I guess.
Yeah.
Like how do you get to that mindset?
Of, of, say that again. Sorry.
Like how do you come to a place in your own self and your own mind of like just taking the time to think about like what do you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know, but like, how can I, you know, like what are the things that I need to do, or like what is like a practical 1, 2, 3 step system that I could implement on, considering those moments, like you're thinking about like even just considering who are my kids and like what are they experiencing, like what was it like when I was their age. Maybe it's just simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's part of it too. And I think thinking about who is this for? Is this for me? How much does this matter? And again, getting back to that long view of who are they becoming? Like, does this really matter who they're becoming? Or
Mm-hmm.
is it more important that I think about things like family trips and taking my girls on a date night
Yeah.
together, or that one-on-one time, and those things that are going to come out versus, did they pick up every piece of thing on their floor? Did they make their beds the way that
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to? Making their beds is important, but like thinking through the long term, I think
Yeah.
helps us with the short term,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. Well, I guess to kind of go off my own question is, oh, Justin, you still there? Maybe he's skipped out. You there, Justin?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, here we go.
No, it's okay. Everything's good.
Technical difficulties. All right. Um,
Yeah.
I was just saying, something that helps me, even get to that place is like, it's hard when you're in the moment all day, every day, but there has to be an element of intentionality, and there has to be an element of like, even though maybe I can't really think about it today, there's just too much going on or whatever. For me, I have to set a time in the near future, like this week, where I'm going to lock that in, and I'm actually going to take time to think about those types of things and really consider all of those things. But it's about scheduling it. It's about calendaring that in.
That's
Really.
the hardest thing, right? Like, enough of my life is already calendared, right? 8 to 5, working, doing
Yeah.
meetings on Zoom all day. And, I'm scheduling. Do I really need to schedule like 5 to 8 o'clock? Do I need to schedule, you know, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.? I think on the weekends, it's been really huge for us lately to really schedule, because kids
Mm.
want to know what's next. They just want to know
Yeah.
what's next. And so, hey, Saturday, we're going to wake up. We're going to watch our favorite college football show, College Game Day. Everybody knows Dad. That's what Dad wants to do, and that's Dad's one TV time during the week.
Yeah.
And we all kind of watch it together. I make pancakes or something fun,
Nice.
and make it memorable. And my girls love college football, because Dad makes pancakes and we hang out and we, do all that stuff. So
So good.
that's happening till 9. And so they also know that they get Saturday morning cartoons. And you know why they get Saturday morning cartoons? Because I got Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. And
Nice.
there was nothing cooler than Transformers, G.I. Joe, all the
Totally, man.
stuff that I used to watch. Didn't watch He-Man. I don't know why, it was kind of weird, but watch some other stuff. Too old for you, Ben Glassman. That's
He-Man, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know that one.
but they get to watch some Saturday morning cartoons, and mom and I kind of clean up the house, and
That's
then
awesome.
we have a family bike ride or something at 10 o'clock. That takes us
Hmm.
till noon, and then we have lunch. Maybe we'll make smoothies, and then the baby goes down for the nap, and then so that means we play outside, and
Mm.
so all that stuff, you know, that helps us kind of go, okay, here's discipleship time. Here's just hang time. It's just
Yeah,
fun. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter that,
yeah,
they're throwing toys everywhere or whatever. It's just chill. And then these times, it's like, okay, we're specifically doing this for a purpose. We might
mm.
have Bible study or I don't know, something like that. Um, and so they know, like, I think that's really important that kids know what time is it, not just what time of the day is it, but what's expected of
Yeah,
me in
yeah,
this time, right?
yeah, yeah. We do that too. We got a little kid calendar. We like have them mark off the days, like what's coming up, and they can see, like, oh, today's Daddy Day, or like, oh, today's Mommy Day, and they kind of know like what to expect. One of my things is we always do In and Out for lunch on Daddy Day.
Oh, that's cool. I
Oh
want
yeah,
to go to Daddy Day.
yeah, man. You can come, man, anytime. I'll let you know the next one. You can put it on your calendar.
To schedule it in.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Another thought I actually kind of wanted to talk about was, given your line of work and it's really compassion's work. Um, do you feel like there's any level, or you feel like there's been a breakdown over time, and throughout history with you know family and like fathers and like and you feel like it's maybe caused some of the issues that we see in our world, kind of on the surface?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a direct correlation to children and how they grow up and what they become to, whether their father was there or not, and a
Mm.
lot of those things.
Hmm.
I don't have stats for you guys or anything like that, but there's you
Yeah.
know, loving caregivers, primary caregivers is always essential in the development of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And at Compassion, when we work with these kids, it's not just for a month or a year, it's for their whole childhood. Once they get in the program, like you were talking about, you sponsor that child for 10 years.
Yeah.
From birth to 18 or 22 years old,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to that church in their local community, and that church is helping them with become a holistically developed person, from
Mm.
nutrition, education, socio-emotional, um, like I said, education, but other things,
Yeah.
like we're just in the life of the kid to make sure they're well rounded, like a wheel is rounded, right? And it have spokes on it. And if one of the spokes is bad, then the wheel doesn't quite operate correctly. So is the same with the child, whether you, like I said, any of those things, or even spiritually, if they're off, that wheel won't operate. It won't become what it was meant to be, because it's
Yeah.
off in a way, it's missing something. And so at Compassion, what we seek to do is develop the whole child holistically, top to
Mm-hmm.
bottom, not leave any of those things out. And
Yeah.
one of former presidents of Compassion, is his name is Wes Stafford. He's
Yeah.
also a mentor of mine, and it's just kind of, he's the one that came up with a lot of this, and the fact that we do work with local churches, and the
Mm.
importance of being that holistic child development, not just focusing on one aspect. So to get back to your question, this addresses kind of
Yeah.
where those kids are lacking, um, on, whether it be that protector, or whether it be that provider, or that shepherd that they need in a father. um, Compassion doesn't ever replace a parent, but can help guide children and give them what they need in those areas,
Yeah.
so that they can become all that God created them to be.
Mm.
So that's kind of how we've seen the
That's awesome.
difficulties in the
Because I mean, what do you feel like are when there's the absence of all of that, or the absence of healthy family or healthy fatherhood? Like, what do you feel like is the result when there is none of that?
well, I think it just lends itself to, I mean, just imagine your kids right now without you and just Megan.
Mm.
As amazing as Megan is, which she is totally amazing,
Yeah.
there would be there would be a missing component. I mean, there would just be this strong shepherding, protecting person that's not there. And someone that she can tag team with, right? That's like, okay, I'm done. Like, here you
Mm.
go, Ben. Like, you got to step in, and this is your role just as much as it is hers
Mm.
to love those kids and guide them. Um, in the same way, that's poverty situations even harder
Mm.
because not only your environment is susceptible for a lot of the things I talked about before, but also
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have enough, and that's what poverty is. Poverty is not having enough. It's not it's not having um, the opposite of poverty is not being wealthy. The opposite of poverty is just having enough,
Mm.
because really that's all we need is enough. And
Yeah.
our and God gives us more than enough, not so we could gorge ourselves, but so that we can use it to
Well,
raise others up that don't have enough. And
mm.
so, that's and without a father in the home, clearly we've talked about this. It's just
Yep.
it's not enough. And so,
Yeah. Yep.
that's part of where compassion
Mm-hmm.
can help. Nothing will replace the father, though, in my
No,
opinion.
I totally agree. What would you say, to if there's for like single parents or single moms specifically, um, who obviously their husband or partner is not in the picture with the kids, or maybe it's different or whatever. Um, what could they do to maybe acquire some sort of like fatherly figure for the children's sake? Maybe just like find like a mentor probably or something. Or do you have any thoughts on that?
It's interesting. I think it was in Wild at Heart, John Eldridge said something like masculinity is bestowed by other men. You know,
Mm.
like whether it be another man or group of men is
Yeah.
is that who and in his book he just kind of talks about every man has a wound that they're given by their father, whether their father was present or not present.
Yeah, that's right.
And that wound stays with us for our whole lives. And what does it look like to overcome that wound? Even though it could be with us our whole lives, it doesn't mean it has to rule our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that is getting around other men. And so that's something that me personally I value. I have a few mentors that I check in with periodically, talk about what's going on, what I'm thinking. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times they set me straight and say, "You're no, you don't allowed to think that way. That's wrong." And I'm like, "Oh, that's what I needed to hear."
Yeah.
So a lot of times they're just there to listen. And then I have other guys that are peers that I meet with, on a regular basis, and who have known me for 20 years and have walked with me and
Mm-hmm.
know my tendencies and know where
Mm-hmm.
they can see Satan starting to get a foothold in my mind or
Yep.
something, right? And they hit me back on. And honestly, there's no replacement for that. As great as amazing as a spouse would be and is in my life,
Mm.
the role that a spouse plays as encourager, partner,
Yeah.
or all those things, um, there's something that other men bring to our lives
Totally.
replaced.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's a great book, by the way. I haven't read that in a long time. I need to read that again.
I try and read it every year. It's so good.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I try to, and then
It's so
it's just
good.
some really important truths. So
That's a good idea. I love that. Do you feel like, with your work, I mean, I'm sure it has, but like, has it shaped the way just from your understanding of the world and problems and all that, and some of the root of family and stuff, do you feel like it's shaped the way you parent or, father yourself?
Oh yeah. I mean, what's crazy is that in these third world countries where poverty is living on extreme poverty is living on less than $1.90 per day per person in the
Mm.
house. And the lack of resources, the lack of opportunity, the lack of education, the lack of sanitary environments and things like that, lack of all of that. There
Yeah.
are these churches that have this gift of proximity to these families because the church is throughout
Mm.
the world.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
there and they just want to help these kids become all that God wants them to be. And so they invite these kids into this program to be sponsored by people back in the US or UK or whatever. But they invite these kids into these programs. And you should see that from day one, when they register these kids, your kid in Kenya, as a matter of fact, with day one, when that kid gets accepted in the program, they start a binder.
Hmm.
And the binder has pictures of the kid every year. It has how they're doing in math, how they're doing in their education, where they're at physically and
Wow.
health wise. Their health checks are all in this binder.
Dang, man.
Their progression spiritually, where are they at with Jesus? Do they profess faith in Jesus? Where are they at in their walk? Are they understanding critical Bible texts? And, like tracking all that. So when they complete the program at 18 or 22 or wherever it is, this binder is like this thick. And
Wow.
this is the church. This is what the church does.
Dang.
And Compassion just partners with the church. The church does all this. With
Huh.
Compassion, the church is doing all this. Compassion just comes alongside and says, how can we support your church? There's this binder this thick on every child,
Dang.
and it has all that. And so the discipleship process is more than just spiritual, it's holistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you asked what I learned from that is it radically changed my thinking
Wow.
as to um, I don't just need to teach my kids a couple Bible lessons and make
Mm.
sure they know Jesus. Man, I need to train them on life and
Yeah.
how to handle money, how
Yeah.
to think through relationships,
Oh. Mm.
friendships. And I still teach them Bible. We're going through the book of Mark right now.
Yeah.
I just kind of said that like Bible, like I was from the South. But there's just so much, there in the idea of holistically developing children that
That's so
I
good.
would have never thought about until I saw it.
Wow. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think, along those lines, it's like we here in America, we can kind of, I mean, as parents, and I mean, we're homeschooling our kids, but I think it's, at least from what I've learned and from, people that we know, the, school can become like the place where they just kind of send their kids, and that's where they're going to learn everything. That's where they're going to learn all about life, everything that life has to offer. They're going to learn at school, and they never really take that on for themselves at home, at other times, or maybe it's just helping with homework. But what encouragement would you have for families who might maybe be in that mindset, or maybe struggle with what to do? What is there anything that you might have to add to that?
Yeah. And again, I'm not an expert in this. I'm just in it with like everybody else. And
Yeah.
I, I think what we do really well, and again, it comes from my own experience,
Mm.
process stuff.
Mm.
Because every time they leave the house, they're going to be influenced some way, whether it be at school or with the neighbor kids or whatever, is to go, what did you hear?
That's
What
good.
did you experience? How did you feel about that?
Mm.
You know, School used to be on the playground, so it was more than just what you're learning in the classroom. It's social, it's relationships, it's who played with who and who did this
Yeah.
and how did I feel when that person answered the question, but I didn't know the answer.
Mm.
Like all those things as a dad, I want to draw those things out of my kids. I want to
Yeah.
know because you know what? We all have those feelings inside of us that are helping shape the way we think.
Totally.
but are we talking to somebody about it? Are we getting down to the truth about those thoughts and getting rid of the lies?
Yeah.
And kids have 1,000 thoughts. Remember when you were, in third grade, and
Yep.
you were thinking about, I want to be cool, so I'm not going to hang out with that person. I'm going to go hang out with this person, or I'm really going to tetherball and I'm not going to play kickball, or like just those thoughts of what does significance look like for you, at this age, and how are you trying to be popular or trying to be,
Yeah.
smart or whatever. Like just sitting, and the best time I do that is when we lay down to go to bed, is and meals. Those are really the only times, because other times it's chaos. But those times is like, hey, what did you hear today? What did you learn today? What would you like to thank God for today? What are you still confused about, or what questions do you have about today?
So good.
Like, man, and again, I'm not perfect at this. Sometimes I'm like, go to bed. I'm so tired. You guys are making me mad. But like a lot of times too, it's let's process a little bit. And the girls share a room, which is sweet, so we can all talk about it together. But this
Yeah.
idea of processing what you're hearing and going a million miles an hour. I wish I would have done that more. I had somebody to do that with as a kid.
Yeah, I feel you on that one, man. That's huge. That is huge. We really strive for that as well. Is just like opening that space up and opening the conversation up with our kids, and even though they're so young. I mean, Camden, our oldest, is 5.5, and then Smith, who's 3.5, and then Smith is like, he barely can kind of communicate what he's thinking or feeling. We finally just taught him how to say boy, because he was saying like bear. So fun. But it's been incredible, like having the space and just really allowing us to kind of lead those opportunities, and just asking those good questions of how are you doing, like how was your day, like how was your time with your friends, and like what did you guys do. And even though they're so simple questions, it's like you got to start somewhere and just start opening up the dialogue and opening up the conversation with them, because otherwise, like you said, like they're going to have these hundreds and hundreds of thoughts and feelings going on in their head, but no one to bounce it off of and talk about it and express it or get some understanding or get some insight. And yeah, I think that's awesome, man. So good. Before we do kind of close up here, but I mean, is there anything else that you feel like you might want to add as far as, how can families or dads continue to walk out fatherhood, especially in the midst of all that's going on? Like, is there anything else that you might suggest or advise on, just practically speaking, before we finish?
Yeah, I think we got to slow down a little bit. Um, yeah, we think we just need to slow down a little bit, because there's so many pressures right now on parents, on kids, on. I mean, could you imagine being 8 years old and then being told you're in a global pandemic and you can't finish out your year at school? Imagine being a high school senior,
So nuts.
like not being able to go to school or go to school that often or do dances or
Yeah.
football games or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
think about that and think about, it's confusing enough to me as an adult and trying to navigate all this stuff about it as a kid, as a parent. And that's where, again, it goes back to how am I personally healthy? Am I personally healthy physically, mentally, spiritually? Am I keeping myself? How's my marriage? What are we modeling? I was reading a Bible study by Francis Chan this morning about how does your marriage come off to other people, because your marriage is going to show really other people Jesus, because the relationship between Christ and his church is supposed to be modeled by our marriage between a husband and wife. And so it's this one of these things where how does that look? And if it's not healthy, what do we need to do to get healthy? You know, and there's just so many stresses and pressures that we want to put things off. Well, we've been putting things off for 9 months, you know, and we can't keep putting things off. We got to take care of stuff. We got to invest in the right areas. So that's what I think that's what comes to mind when I hear that.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Slow down. So good.
Yeah.
I love that. That's super encouraging for me too. It's with everything going on. It's tough to slow down.
Yes. Especially with little kids.
Especially with little kids.
Everybody else can slow down. You got little kids, you can't slow down.
Sun up to sundown, man.
And
Non-stop.
while you're asleep too.
Yeah. We were just talking last night or the night before, because we always end up having to do some sort of work after the kids go to bed. But we'd actually kind of adjusted our habit probably back in like July, where we were like in this habit of like, kids go to bed, we're going to come downstairs and we're going to go straight to work. You know, bust something out, whatever. We like had to make a switch. I'm like, no, this is probably not healthy. And we could feel it too. Like just, there was a disconnect happening. You know, we were more agitated and irritable towards each other. And we finally made the switch, and we decided, you know what, we're not doing any work until after the kids go to bed. We've talked for at least an hour. But now it's like, oh crap, man, now we're not getting any work done at night. Because now we're like talking all night. And it's been awesome. But it's just funny. But I totally feel on that one.
Yeah. Time is a tough.
Man. So good. Well, hey, thank you so much, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. I appreciate this. I'm excited for Legacy Makers and what you guys are doing. And
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, yeah, we are super thankful for you, and thank for that. You know, we know you guys, and you guys are in our corner. But I do want to say too, just really quick, for everyone who is potentially listening, is just, you know, as we've been talking about this and fatherhood and family, it's so critical that as we're continuing to walk down this road, that we do take the time to really ask ourselves those questions. And something that we do as legacy makers, before my kids come in here, they're coming, I hear them. We take people through this process called legacy mapping. And it's really just that timeout portion of like, we're pausing and we're going to evaluate, who are we? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Now, what do we want to do now? And kind of create a plan and a map. So if you've ever thought about that, or if you're needing help with those kind of questions, check out doing a legacy mapping session. It's been really awesome with some families. So anyway, thank you again, Justin. Thanks everyone listening, and we'll see you later. See you, Justin.
You guys.